Hello, my name is Raul Sanabria. I am the president of Baroyeca Gold and Silver, a publicly listed company in the Toronto Exchange. BGS is our ticker. It's a company is fully focused in Colombia. We have exploration projects in that very prolific jurisdiction.
Raul, nice to meet you. Thank you for the introduction. I've never heard of your company before, and I'm looking forward to getting to know it over the next 30 or 40 minutes or so.
Perfect, Merlin. Thanks for being here with you today.
So, Colombia, and you've got, I know you've done a few you've done a few meetings already, or a few interviews with Matthew, so we don't need to go over the entire company in depth, but essentially you've got 3 projects in the company, and you brought some of the projects to the company. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Merlin. So the company on the private side, I was involved in 2 companies on the private side. We had the Santa Ana Colonial District, the 2 key mining concessions over 10 years ago, and we had to sell one on that stage, and but the company managed to keep what is now the Atocha project, 2,600 hectares of prime ground. We always believed in that project, the number of show winds, the big corridors going through, and that was the project that made the company attracted to be bended into Baroyeca. It was a shell, and we finally got the exchange approval in March of last year. So that's one of the projects. The other, it was started by a private group in Vancouver, a group of investors, and in which I was a part of them. And we decided to go differently. We were in the Bolivar region, in the south of the Bolivar province. By many, the Serranía de San Lucas is the richest gold belt in Colombia. And we got an opportunity to get into permitted concessions. And instead of going drilling, we had the idea of drifting a tunnel and start commencing a bulk sample, build a pilot processing plant, and conduct explorations in such a way in which we could get some revenues while the market was turning. We had a series of hiccups and issues, and we didn't accomplish that plan on time. But with Baroyeca, looks like we were more than halfway through the bulk sample when it was acquired by Baroyeca. And it's a brand new processing plant. It's a clean title, and it's accessible. So we got the 2 projects that the company needed just to get positioned quickly with 2 quality assets in Colombia. And our extensive experience. We got over 10 years. Personally, I have more than 10 years of experience working in Colombia. And everybody in our team in the senior and management positions has more than 20 years in the industry, also in Colombia. So we got a strong team, which is also part of the foundation of this company. It's a whole package what Baroyeca acquired. So it was very attractive at the time.
And Colombia's got a new president. How's that panning out? You know, what's the mood in the country with regards to mineral concessions and your ability to work? Have you seen that changing at all with the new president?
Well, I rather talk about geology than politics, but I tell you the feeling of our group. Because we are not in Vancouver relying on, we have a fully established team. Those changes won't happen overnight. They won't happen overnight. The president made some promises during the campaign, and we have to see if he can fulfill those promises when he gets into the office. And he's not in the office yet. He will get in the office in about 10 days. So when he's positioned, his main program is to stop the oil and gas exploration, but he didn't pronounce too much in exploration projects for mining. We know he's negative on open pit mining in the country, but still narrow vein, high grade, there's no pronouncement on that. So we don't see that our projects at this current stage and at this current capacity will get by any means affected. We have all the social support. We're in areas that have some mining history. There's other companies more exploring around us, more advanced than us. So it will be a change, definitely, but it's not going to be a radical change. And I don't see my group, my team is not concerned. It's not concerned.
Yeah, and so it's very much business as usual for your team. You're continuing to operate on a day-to-day basis.
Nothing has changed up to now. Nothing has changed.
Okay, good. Now, just by way of summary, when I go through your news releases of your presentation, I see you've got these 3 projects. You've got Atocha, which is high-grade silver. You've completed a high-grade set of veins, which lie within a single structural corridor, and you've completed phase 1 drilling on it, and you've moved into phase 2 drilling on that. Can we, before we go on to the other projects, Santa Barbara and the copper project, Zapatoca. Let's just stick to Atocha just for now. So let's just I saw somewhere that you're trying to repeat a Baroyeca. Oh no, so that was in Santa Barbara. So let's just stick with the work that you're doing at Atocha at the moment.
Yeah, at Atocha, we are in the middle of the vein corridor that forms the Santa Ana, Frias, the silver belt. It's a primary silver belt. It goes to the south to El Líbano. So there's known mining districts to the north, which is the colonial Santa Ana, Real de Minas de Santa Ana. It's a series of dozens of colonial mines, all of them very high grade silver. To the west, we have the Frias mine that was exploded in one single vein. And then to the south, there's El Porvenir, El Papayo, El Sirpe, Vertesia, all in one single structure. So what happens at Atocha is we have one of those horsetails, one of those splits. We are like at least three major several kilometer long corridors in which we understand those are like deformation corridors, shear zones. And the primary veins are associated to those. So they are responsible in a thrust and fall setting. We can discuss geology. We can do a thesis on that if we want to, but basically those are the ones hosting the veins. We don't want to target one single vein, one single shoot. We're looking at the structures, at the major corridors. The first one we tested was Laye. Laye was the logic one. It was exposed at surface, was really close to an existing road, so it was very easy to access. And as I said, we didn't want to test one vein. We tested one corridor. We got like 5 or 6 parallel ones in a short distance. We got like 2 bigger ones and some satellite ones, and we got the numbers we needed. We got more than half a kilo silver equivalent over accumulated widths of 0.5 meter. So they're all mineable intersects. They're above the average for a silver project, and we tested only the first 50 meters below surface. We didn't want to go deeper. We want to go along strike. So
these are these epithermal veins. Are they kind of well constrained? What's the grade cut off? Tail off outside of the vein. So it's high grade vein, and then what happens in the wool rock?
Oh, there's not much. There's a dissemination sometimes when you get in the graphitic schist. They are hosted in basement, not in volcanics. So there's a graphitic schist or a phyllitic schist and usually some pyre, but the grades are constrained to the veins. But you mentioned the epithermal. There's more than one event. What makes this really complicated is a thrust and fall setting. So you get some primary orogenic veins. They carry some gold. They carry some silver. You can call that they're a distal intrusion related system. You can compare those with those ones in the Harz, Germany, and here in Canada, the closest example with the Keno Hill in the Yukon. So same mineralogy, native silver, sulfosalts, but very clean in terms of arsenic and antimony. But then there is a very late post-Miocene epithermal event that is remobilizing gold. The veins go almost in the same direction as the orogenic ones. They are very close, but they are different. Texturally, geochemically, they are different. But when they go together, they form shoots. For whatever reason, they remobilize the gold and the silver. They produce the bonanza zones. So based on those corridors, we're also looking at the intersection of those structures, the epithermal system with the precursor orogenic system. So this is giving us the better targets.
Okay, so
2 for 1.
2 for 1. When you talk about mineable widths, in Colombia, what do you consider to be a mineable width? Because when you're talking about mechanized mining, I mean, you're pretty much talking about 2 meters as a minimum mining width. But you mentioned 50 centimeters or 0.5 meter as a mineable width. Is that standard in Colombia?
There's different variables, and one of the things we calculated our profits on Santa Barbara. We're going to move that. We're going to talk about that when we get to the next project because we're doing some of those economics. But in Santa Barbara, we're looking at 20 centimeter, 25 centimeter wide veins, and we got like 1.5 meter wide tunnels, and we're in the profits. So let's say like 6 grams per ton gold equivalent over widths of 1.5 meters are pretty much decent in Colombia and allow you to do underground mining. It's all the labor costs. It's all those costs are way different than in Canada or the US. That makes a big difference. So from a pure geological point of view, we still have those decent widths. We got up to 4 meters in intersects, 4 meters widths. So the Atocha is you're having those big widths meter, 2 meter plus, which is usually the width of the tunnel itself, the production tunnel.
When you published the phase 1 drilling results, you did 1,700 meters of drilling in 13 holes, and you said that the average was half a meter. You got 25 intercepts in the 13 holes, and a rough arithmetic average was a half a meter intersection at 570 grams per ton silver. Is that? I mean, but that's so you're going to need to. You need more width or more grade, because if you divide the 570 to by
yeah,
four,
it will be the dilution factor. It will be the dilution factor. Yeah. I'm not a mining engineer, so you can do a residue stoping. There's different methods to mine this. They've been mined in the past by the main haulage tunnel, and then all these small drifts and shrinkage stopes. Again, I'm not a mining engineer, but these things usually work, and this is how they work in other places in Latin America, because silver mining is 99% of the cases is underground mining. Yes. So. But that's the average. It doesn't mean that this is the width that we have to deal with, that we got structures that are up to 4 meters wide, 2 meters wide. As I said, it will be like the width of a production tunnel with no dilution. So that what you have is the weighted average of all those 13 holes. Yeah. Some of them, they hit like 4 or 5 structures. So we're considering the ones that have, like, carrying the ones that we missed. So and they go for 400 plus meters along strike, and we haven't tested them below 50 meters below surface. So we haven't gotten deeper on that. So
I've got so many questions, because I'm so new to this deposit. Your phase 1 drilling, you've moved into a 5,000 meter program. It's underway.
Yes.
How are you deploying those drill holes? Are you extending your knowledge along depth and along strike? Are you targeting different systems? Are you vectoring? How do you vector to the Miocene remobilization events?
Geological mapping is critical. Let's say geophysics don't work in this kind of systems or in this part of the world because of the host rock that we have, the cover that we have, the saprolith, the quaternary deposits that are unconformably overlined. So geophysics can point some intrusives, but they don't do much. But there's good exposures. There's lots of Crux. So prospective work. The guys are the prospectors out. They find the veins in situ, which is the best pinpoint that we have to extend to the next and the next and the next. So that works really well. Mapping works really well. LiDAR was extremely good tool on the beginning, because all those first major corridors that we saw with DEM from NASA with 25 meter pixels regionally, they actually were filtered, and we were applying different filters with different orientations and different dips of the slopes. And actually we had like a magnificent view of the 3 main corridors, and we went to check them in the different creeks where they were intersected, and almost in every creek we found the veins. So we immediately came with over 200 showings in 3 months.
I saw those images, and I wondered if you'd done LiDAR, but you're saying that was a state level or kind of a national, international digital elevation model that you bought from NASA, or was it freely available?
It's free. So I got that one for the entire Colombia. I got that a few years ago. But when we did the LiDAR on the property at 5 centimeter pixels, and we filtered that information, those corridors are actually in the corporate presentation. You can see that they're perfectly highlighted. And when we send the crews out for prospecting, and so we follow those actually corridors, and we found also the veins where some oblique structures were also intersecting. Some bends in the creeks, they indicate all those intersects, and this is where the veins were found. 3 months of ground prospecting, we got more than 200 showings. So we needed a place to start. Now, what is the problem? This area hasn't been historically mined. We don't have colonial mines that we can go and drill deeper under the chutes. We know that these things go deeper, and the colonials don't get much deeper than 100 or 200 meters. So you go 300, you go underneath, and it's a safe bet. You drill into a known occurrence. So your odds are good in your exploration you're targeting. Now, moving away, trying different zones, how do we know that we're in the sweet spot? Is trial and error. So at Laie, we followed that corridor and we proved it. And we got a higher numbers in the northeast on that part of the structure, on that particular setting. Now on phase 2, we moved to the other side of a regional fault. Is the Santa Agueda Creek, is a down block, and is the paleo surface. The vein was found, and we just used one outcrop, and we drilled under that outcrop, and we're going along strike. So we moved to the south. We were in that lucky, and the last press release, we're almost in a kilo per ton silver equivalent to the north. And I can tell you we have like 4 more holes completed in the area. Samples are in the lab. We're waiting for the assay results, but it's looking much and much better. So stay tuned on that, because visually the core, we're hitting the structures. They are wider. They're fully loaded with sulfides. So we expect to have the same numbers as we had a year or even higher. Now, how do we know when is the bonanza zone in the structure? We don't know. And the property is very big. And this is a, let's see, an early stage grassroots project. So if we are successful in the first 2 targets, and if we keep moving and we keep testing targets one after another, eventually, it's a matter of time that we will start hitting those zones. So that's why we rather go along strike in a structure than focusing in going at depth. Because we know, for experience, we know how the geometry of the Frias mine, we know the geometry of El Porvenir, we know the geometry of El Oasis, of El Papayo, or the Mayor Santa Ana, the colonial mine. We know they go at depth for 400 or 500 meters, but along strike, they're not very long. So once we have one of those zones of high grade, and we know that the grades deplete on both ends on that, should the identified surface, we can always go deeper on phases 3 and 4 and delineate those shoots. But right now, on our current targets, the plan will be to define as many as we can, try to identify those higher grade areas within those structures tested along strike, and then we'll focus on delineating the best ones, because we don't know which ones are the best ones.
Have you tried ground magnetics to pick up structure?
There's some dikes. We got some andesitic dikes. What we're seeing in core is amphibolytic schist, non-magnetic. We have graphitic schist, non-magnetic, but also will give some false positives if we try to do IP. We have rhyolites, and we have granites. What we have is a strong sericitic alteration in the granites and in the rhyolites associated with the late epithermal event. So when we got the epithermal events, the core looks pale, more clayish. So there's an abrupt alteration of the host rock immediately surrounding the veins. Whereas on the orogenic veins, there's only some pyritic alteration halos around the veins only on the graphitic schist. It won't affect the amphibolytic schist. Actually, there's no alteration. There's some chloride, regional chloride, but there's nothing like too magnetic actually in the area. The granites will produce a magnetic load compared with some other volcanics, but the only volcanics are unconformably overlying the basements.
No, indeed, but the beauty about a magnetic survey is it just somehow picks up structure beautifully, typically.
Yes, I agree with you totally. LiDAR has proven the best tool on this project so far.
Okay, so you can do your structural mapping through the LiDAR? Yes. And we have completed it already. Okay, and are you able to use that structural map to vector in on intersection of structures, on zones of preferred fluid flow, perhaps dilational zones, or have you got a kind of a structural rubric that you can use to help target or kind of help ascertain which areas might be best, or is it just the case that you have to go systematically testing all of the structures?
Yes, we did that. We did that with the LiDAR, with the primary and the secondary, and that's why we have all these clusters of exposures at surface already identified. And it's not one show, but we're like clusters of the structures, and they all coincident with the regional corridors and the other oblique, let's see, post-Miocene epithermal related fracturing mineralizing event. So that's what we get the bonanza zones. But on the first corridors, from LiDAR, we have done all the structural, we filtered the data. We did all these slope analysis and slope direction analysis and depth analysis and all different sets. And it all like screams, like the systems that scream to the screen of the computer.
Okay, so it sounds as if the plan at Atocha is just to keep drilling, keep progressing, keep reporting. You've got some good holes coming. You've just put out some good holes, but it's just you're trying to build up an awareness of the quality of the project in the investment community so that they can see that this is a regionally important silver play.
That's totally correct. We're sharing the district with another company. We have neighbors that they are more advanced than we are, and they are actually proving what it actually we're finding. So again, they are more advanced and they are drilling under the colonial mines, but I can refer to the recent assay results so everybody has an idea of the potential of the district. We just centered into the corridor with our big land position. So, but again, the property hasn't been historically mined or explored. This is all virgin ground, and we're opening it's a breakthrough for Colombia to be put in the map for pure Colombian exploration, pure Colombian silver exploration.
And how long is it going to take you to complete your phase 2 drilling?
Well, we're going slow. We have one rig, and because of the market situation, we wanna keep it like that, be cash conservative until the market reacts to actual results and there's a little bit of uncertainty. We're in a bear market. That we have a very good deal and rates with our drillers and allows us some time for thinking. So we try to avoid that prospecting with the rig. If we have like 2 rigs, it's going to be too stressful. So particularly when we don't have any defined. So if we were in phase 3, phase 4, going under already known zones, then we can get like 2 or 3 rigs. But at this point, we're just using one and being very careful when we put our drill holes. Yeah,
excellent. Good. Thank you. We better move on to the next project. So let's talk a little bit about Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Santa Barbara is a pure gold play. So Santa Barbara is located in the Bolivar region, in the southern Bolivar region, and that's is known for high grade gold veins. There's a lot of it's a big area. Serranía de San Lucas is several hundred of square kilometers. And there's legal and illegal mining activities. So that tells you the potential of the district. So you get illegal miners, you get formalized miners, and you get some legal miners as well. Where we are now located is between Rio Viejo and Barranco de Loba. There's a cluster of permitted mining concessions. So we are right on the road from Rio Viejo to Barranco de Loba. So we have access to the property. Power, the grid is 1 kilometer away from the property. If in case we want to do development. The problem with Bolivar is those veins usually are quite sparse. They are not clustered together, forming a tight vein set. So that makes it difficult for a commercial operation, unless you have something like centralized toll milling. And but that's unlikely a scenario. Everybody's greedy. It's hard to get the permits. It's hard to negotiate. But back in the day, when we got this property, we found one of those dilation zones, and we got a number of veins very closely spaced, forming a similar scenario of a known deposit, a well-known deposit in Colombia. So I don't want to be that comparable that everybody wants to make. So I want to stick to the merits of the project itself. So we got almost a dozen veins in less than 200 meters. Those veins are not too wide, so usually 10 to 50 centimeters wide. They pinch and swell. They're right lateral faults infill with veins, are hosted in basement, in gneisses. They are intermediate sulfidation mesothermal to low sulfidation epithermal. They got all these processes. And the average, when we did the surface sample, more than 60% of the samples that we took returned over 10 grams per ton gold. So that was actually very good for the first pass. Wow, what is this? Yeah. And then when we channeled that, our first channel samples, we did 5 meters spacing. When we did our exploratory tunnel while we were doing the bulk sampling, and our averages were over 1 ounce per ton gold over the width of the vein. Then when we did the crosscut, we accessed the second vein. We sampled tighter every meter, and we got consistent 1 ounce per ton on the parallel vein. When we did all the bulk sample, the whole point was to process a large sample. So we're used to 1 ton, 5 tons, a truck load to send to a pilot lab and to do the preliminary testing. We did 500 tons, which is a huge sample. That's 100 meters of tunnel, all in one sample. So we're doing batches at 10 tons each, which was how we designed our plant as a giant replica of a assay lab. So we got the crushing, we got the pulverizing, and we got the homogenizing. So we got 2 stages of crushing, 2 stages of milling for ball mill, and then we got the homogenization in what they are, the cyanide leaching tanks. So once we get the sample taken from the tunnel, those 10 tons, they are bagged in rice bags. So you get 50, 70 kilos in every bag. They are scrambled at the mine portal, then they're scrambled when they're loaded in the truck. They're scrambled again when they're unloaded at the mine, and they get crushed. So you can more or less start homogenizing the sample. So once they get into the crusher, ball mill, and get into the agitator tanks, and you start agitating, that gets fully homogenized. You take your head grade sample from there.
Quick question. When you did the original sampling, did you get a lot of variability of grade?
It is into the 20 grams plus minus 10%. So that is, we don't have any negative effect. The gold, there's some thin sections and some studies, and they're in the 550 micron particle size. So it's locked with the sulfides, it's locked with the pyrite. So we don't have any VG, we don't have any negative effect. All those batches are relatively consistent in the 20, 21 gram per ton plus minus, and they all average about 24 grams per ton. That's the weighted average of the head grades, and that includes some contamination of the wall rock, because you don't get the pure sample of the vein, like clean the vein. There's some dirt from the wall rocks when we mine it.
So
it's not bad.
So the bulk sampling exercise isn't really to deal with negative effect or high variability.
No, there's a problem when you do resource estimates in these systems. There's a variability of gold depending on if the drill hole intersects the quartz part of the vein, the sulfide part of the vein, or the breccia altered part of the vein. And then it's all about like drilling the spacing. If you use like 25 meter centers, you're going to have some variability. And how closely spaced, the cost of drilling will be bigger than the cost of mining. So there's statistics, there's ways to deal with, but it's a known fact that in these kinds of deposits, it is always recommended to do that, to do some drifting and channel sampling at smaller intervals, and that reduces the variability between drill holes. So we're doing that on the first step, not the last, because I've seen properties and projects failing because of drill spacing or because of the variability of what is intersected in the core, because it's always, if it's a fault zone, if you get some gougy parts, it's poor recoveries in those sections. So that's the only number you have for the resource estimate. Whereas if we have a proper tunnel, we get the vein exposed in its entirety between the distance between 2 future drill holes that we will do, and that variability will get minimized. And we have a more like a composite sample for the length of the chute.
So if you've got 10 tons and you multiply it by the gold price, which is, I don't know, 1750, that's 17,500. So you can recover some gold from each of your bulk samples that you do, which presumably provides you with a decent amount of, it covers your costs at least, and may even help towards the ongoing exploration.
Yeah, that's the plan that we did in paper. So with those grades, even with 10 to 15 grams, if we process 3 to 4 batches a month, not even a day, because this is a bulk sample facility. Remember, we're not mining. We're bulk sampling. We're in the exploration stage. If we go mining, we have to apply for different licenses, which we're currently doing, so we can do the switch very quickly. We submitted all the documentation for that, our mine plan, our work plan. We're working the environmental license to go mining the sooner possible. But in the meantime, this qualifies as exploration, but the bulk sampling we're doing. But yeah, like if we do like 3 to 4 batches a month, steady, because bulk sampling, the advance in the tunnel in bulk sampling is slower than actually mining. We have to be more careful, peeling the vein on one side and taking the vein. And we have to allocate every sample, especially where it goes in the tunnel, follow up with channel sampling. So it's a process. So it slows down the actual speed of processing. And the plant will need to be switched from bulk sampling to continuous mining, which is not a big deal. It's prepared. But at least with 3 to 4 batches, we cover all the overhead for the plant itself and almost all the overhead of our Colombia office. So we defray all the operation costs in Colombia, but drilling in Atocha.
Okay, good, thank you. If it's fine-grained gold in a pyrite concentrate, what happens to that concentrate, and what are your ongoing test results from this bulk sampling? You know, what is it indicating in terms of recovery?
Oh, we achieved more than 85% in our plant in the test that we did. We did some pours on site, and we're in 85% with the current plant. So we can make it more efficient, adding flotation, adding other elements to the plant, but that will be the switch from bulk sampling to mining. The way it's set up right now allows the entire sample that goes into the crusher to end up in the cyanide leaching tank with no losses. If I do losses, then the sample is not representative. If I do this gravity separation by flotation, by centrifuges, no, everything that goes in the crusher ends up in the cyanide leaching tank. So, and based on that, with all that dirt and contamination, we achieved more than 85% recoveries in the process.
Okay.
So the cyanide, basic cyanide leaching works perfectly on this kind of deposit.
Okay, good. So what's the plan for you can do hand-to-mouth exploration, and you can do hand-to-mouth, you know, by the bulk sampling and the process of exploration. What's the plan for Santa Barbara to convert as a bigger project?
Santa Barbara, there's two catalysts that we're looking at. One is to get the permits approved for mining. We applied for a small scale mining. We applied for 50 tons per day. So we're not bigger than that. So if we can achieve that, we can ramp up production to 50 tons a day. Rather than 50 tons a month of bulk sampling. So we can speed up with actual mining, generating cash flow, and then we can follow up with channel sampling as the meaningful work towards a resource estimate, and we'll bring drills in. So the second catalyst is to have the titles in the company's name. Colombia is not too fast transferring property from one owner to the next. There's several steps. Is tedious. It's not a straightforward process, and it should be over the counter. It is not. So we expect to have from the two mining concessions that form Santa Barbara, that looks like the southern portion is moving faster towards the transfer, which is where the Mariana mine is. The one we're rehabilitating right now is the closest to the plant site, is 100 meters away. So once we have the title in our name, then we will start with the drilling. Because as long as it's on third party's name, it could be a liability or be to the company to do all that work to that third party. So we want to be fully responsible of our mining concession and our practices. So we are basically working on a non-too invasive way of the projects. And if you know what I mean is, so we're operating that way. So we have all the operation contract. We have operation contracts that fully allows us to conduct exploration. We're just taking it easy until we are the proper owners. It's like doing renovations in a house that you're renting with an option to buy it. And then what happens if you don't buy it? Once the property is in our name and the option agreement is fully fulfilled, then we can go full steam with drilling and more aggressive exploration on Santa Barbara. We were waiting for that for Atocha. As soon as we got the title in place, we moved the rigs in. So for the moment, we're doing all this bulk sampling, rehabilitating the mines. We are doing some more reconnaissance and prospecting. We're open to new opportunities. We're just patiently waiting for those catalysts.
Okay, and so sorry, I'm a bit slow on this. So Santa Barbara, what is the option agreement? You know, what do you have to do that? Was it just a process of, have you agreed the price, but you're just going through speaking to local owners?
The process is in Colombia, so we are not in any problem with the option agreement with the Canadian vendors. So that is fine. Within like 2 years of the agreement, is the transfer from the one that we acquired from. The title is not still in the name of the subsidiary company. So Colombia asks for a series of requisites. You have to give the notice of the title transfer, then file the title transfer, then have to review your economic capacity. They have to review that the title is in good standing. All these obligations from part of the vendor, they are fulfilled. They have to do site visits, et cetera, et cetera. And they work in their times, not in ours. So the one that actually we filed in January for the southern portion, the one we just announced, I mean, the prerequisites are approved. It's a smaller property than the area we're segregating on the northern part, which is a larger property. And the current title holder is not up to date with these obligations. And we push, but every time the process moves forward towards the transfer, there's always something that comes up and delays. But there's often portion is moving nice. It's more sophisticated people as owners. That's what we moved into, or decided to be more aggressive on exploration on the southern portion rather than the north, if it makes sense. Yeah,
good, great. And when you look at, I know that you don't want to kind of go too much into the exploration at Santa Barbara until you've got the title consolidated. But when you look at it, do you consider it to be the analog mine was 10 million ounces at 10 grams a ton, more or less? Are you thinking big? Are you thinking this could be a multi-million ounce potential? Or is this always going to be a highly profitable small-scale operation?
No, we're not small-scale miners. We are not small-scale miners. We are explorers. So our vision is we think that Santa Barbara will host a sizable gold deposit. So there's a comparison on our website, on our presentation, with another very known deposit at an earlier stage. And just the number of veins with those grades, with that strike length, with that depth, can easily, but that will be a forward-looking statement, so it's very hard for me to make that. But this is how companies start. You think you have something big and you go and prove it. So this project has all the legs for that. So we got the number of veins, we got the consistency of grades, we got the right geometry, we have the right erosion level. Basically, there's no erosion level. So Santa Barbara will be developed and grown as a large gold deposit. The mine operation is just moving faster in metallurgical tests, moving faster in terms of resource estimates. When we create the maiden resource estimate with one vein and one chute that we can extrapolate to the rest of the veins, and it will generate cash flow that will defray operating costs, which is actually what we want to make this company different from the rest, that we can generate our own cash flow to pay for our own from our own office costs. So maximize shareholder value and maximize our cash position into be deployed strictly into exploration. Yeah,
good. Right, now the third project, we haven't got much time on this, but Zapatoca. It's a new project. You in the news release you describe it as that maybe this is Baroyeca opening up as a project generator, which makes me think that you're probably not going to want to fund this yourself. You're looking for a partner on this, but it's all about opening up of Colombia as a territory where the stratiform sediment hosted copper deposits can be found.
Yeah, that is one part. This is sorry, there's a noise outside. There's so Baroyeca is focused on Atocha and Santa Barbara, but we're opening to finding more things in Colombia. We have the knowledge, and remember that only Colombia, like 3% of the country, or around 3-4% of the country, is covered with mining concessions, and about 10% with mining applications. And there's 3 cordilleras, and there's world-class discoveries. So there's a lot of ground to explore, and we know where the belts are. So we can open ourselves to be for JV partners, and that's one of the reasons I got these comments from actually John Robbins from the Discovery Group, the company we just joined, or the group of companies here in Vancouver now we are part of, and we're going to unlock all the potential that Colombia has to offer. So it doesn't need to be gold and silver. We're opening to any other commodity. The copper was just a lucky strike that we got our geos out, and it wasn't even a prospecting round, and we found all that copper like leaching from those stratiform beds. And we know that there's another junior company that is putting also Colombia in the map for these copper schiefer copper deposits, stratiform deposits in Cesar in the north, and they are not known in the Santander region. So this is very close to our office. It's about 40-minute drive on paved road, and the outcrops are actually by the road. I'm surprised that nobody has seen them before. So what we did, we just got 4,000 hectares. We followed the stratigraphic contour of that unit. and we just covered a large block. So we don't know how big that might be, but it's a start. So that's our first step towards becoming a project generator. If we keep finding more things, we can get our geos moving to some areas that are not covered with mining concessions or any exploration applications, and they have potential. We're going to get our geos out, and if they find something, we're going to stake in ground. And you never know, we can, instead of acquiring projects and paying for those projects, we can actually stake our own projects. Colombia still has that opportunity, and give that opportunity to our shareholders. Get in our own ground, why not?
Raul, great, thank you. It's really nice talking to you. Lots going on in the country and lots going on in your company as well. So I look forward to seeing how the bonanza grades at Atocha pan out. I'll be keeping an eye on those drill rigs as they deliver the results at Atocha, picking up that new ground in the south. That's particularly interesting. Santa Barbara, it'll be good to see the progress there. Obviously, I think perhaps the greater excitement will come once you've got those options bedded down, the title in your own name, because then you'll be free to really advance those projects at the pace that you want to develop them. And Colombia, what an exciting country! And when you can pick up things like Zapatoca, that's just fantastic.
Great, thanks, Merlin. Thanks a lot for time.
Pleasure. Nice talking to you.